It's 11:38 p.m., and the city is too quiet for a place ringed by timber and river. This is 104.3 FM, the little station that used to play late-night road songs for truckers on I-90 and college kids working double shifts. And I'm Jesse Thornton speaking from a room that smells like dust, warm plastic, and diesel. The outside air is 51 degrees by the old analog thermometer on the wall, the kind with a red strip that creeps up like a slow fuse. The wind is coming down from the rattlesnake like a steady breath, dry and cold enough that you can feel it on your gums when you step outside and open your mouth. There are no planes cutting across the sky anymore, and there is no freeway. Hum rolling up the valley. Only the faint ticking from our broadcast rack. The soft rise and fall of a generator behind two doors. And the kind of silence that lets you hear your own blood in your ears. Our tower still carries, though the signal falls apart in the canyons and sometimes dissolves over the river where the mist hangs low. If you're in Missoula proper, you're probably getting me clean. If you're out past Frenchtown or drifting south toward Lolo, you might be hearing me in a wash of hiss with words breaking like stones underwater. I'm feeding this board off a battery bank, hacked into a diesel rig in the alley, and a small run of solar that still catches a little light during the thin afternoon. I'm running low power to make the fuel last. That means the stereo pilot is off, and the limiter is barely stepping in. If it sounds raw, that's because raw is all we have. The city has fallen. Roads are gone. You've got 5 minutes and one backpack. What do you take? Let me know in the comments below. You already know why you're here. You might be sitting in a kitchen with a flashlight pointed at the ceiling to make a poor man's lamp. You might be parked in a driveway with the keys in your fist and the radio turned on just enough to hear me over your breathing. Maybe you've pushed a couch against the front door, or hung a blanket over a broken pane, or moved the crib to the center of the room because it felt safer there. You know the shape of what's happening, even if you don't understand the bones of it. The quiet came first, then the dark, then the sky changed colors and started to move like it was alive. I remember the exact moment the shape crossed the moon. That was 2 weeks ago, a little after midnight, the night the grid blinked and the transformers along the rail line spat blue flame that looked like someone cracking the sky with a welding torch. I was on the roof to check the tower light because the FAA beacon went dark, and my phone, before it died for good, kept lighting up with the airport alerts. I looked up and saw the moon torn into 3 pieces by a shadow, with edges too sharp to be cloud and too smooth to be smoke. The sound reached me late, like thunder that took a wrong turn through the mountains. It was a low note that made the ventilation ducts thrum. I felt it through my jaw before I heard it. Then I smelled something like wet iron and hot stone and old pennies that had been in a fire. I didn't think dragon. No one sane thinks dragon when a thing bigger than a city bus rides a thermal over the university rooflines. But I felt a word I didn't have. By morning, there were scorch marks on the parking lot off Higgins that cut across spaces like fresh handwriting, and a row of cars with glass slumped into puddles, paint blistered into bubbles that broke when the wind touched them. A grocery sign melted and curled like taffy. People stood in little knots, heads tilted up, mouths open, waiting for some shape to come back and finish the sentence. The phones died hard that day. They didn't just lose bars. The screens flashed and went blank and wouldn't take a charge off anything. Not the hand crank bricks the hikers keep. Not the solar mats everyone bought when the first rolling blackouts started. Hospital monitors froze and had to be peeled off with tape. Traffic lights hung dead and drivers started making quiet bargains at four ways, waving each other on with palms up and faces tight. The university sirens hiccuped and fell into a tone that wouldn't stop until the batteries ran down. The river kept moving like it didn't care about any of it, like always. We got a few local county broadcasts for a while. Sheriff's deputies telling people to stay off Mount Sentinel, stay out of Paddy Canyon, keep pets inside, don't shine lights at the sky, report large-scale fire activity, but the repeaters went silent one by one. The TV stations tried to keep the morning shows alive off generators until the studio glass cracked when something passed low over the Clark Fork, and the heat from its breath made the air in there ripple like water on a stovetop. I saw that with my own eyes, not on a screen. I was across the street thinking I was brave for walking to the vending machine like it was any normal day. The anchor inside stood up without her mic and called someone's name like a teacher. She didn't look at the camera again. I don't have to convince most of you what you've seen, but I think I need to say it plain, because the mind keeps trying to twist this into wildfire, or a military test, or some trick of the atmosphere. We have living things in our sky that bend heat the way a blacksmith bends iron, that climb inside wind like it's a ladder, that skim ridgelines and roll their bodies to catch the rising air in a way I've seen hawks do over the bitter roots. They are long and jointed in a way that isn't like any bird or bat I've known, and when their wings lock, you feel the valley hold its breath. The scales are not smooth. They look like plates laid down in rows, and when they catch the faintest light, they don't shine like fish. They drink the light and give back something low and red, the color you get when you close your eyes against a bright lamp and stare at the blood in your lids. The noise is not only roar, it's also a skin noise, a ripple, a sound you feel behind your sternum that makes you think of a storm rolling downhill in the dark. When they wash a roofline, shingles go soft and gutters sag. When they pass too slow over water, steam rises and then falls as rain a minute later, warm and dirty, tasting like old pipes. The first day, people called them by names that fit old stories. By day 3, the stories got practical. A retired smoke jumper walked into the station with his eyes red from smoke that wasn't there and told me the heat pattern on the hillside didn't map to brush or slash piles. He said, "Fire has a way of moving that you can read like a hand," and this was more like someone taking a lamp to paper in neat lines. He said the timber didn't catch until after the lines cooled. That was the same morning a biology adjunct from the university, Marta, from Germany, who worked on bats and summer insects, came by with both arms full of notebooks and a field recorder she couldn't play because nothing with a chip would take a charge. She wasn't sleeping and talked too fast, but I caught the shape of it. Whatever we think we're seeing, it isn't some myth that sprang whole from a storybook. It hunts like a thing that evolved to live here. It rides thermals. It favors south sides where the rock faces warm faster. It uses the river valleys as safe corridors and makes its own updrafts by heating the air under it. Her last sentence stuck with me. She said the wings have fingers. The army got here late because the interstates were jammed at the passes, and helicopters don't share air with what we have here now. When they came, they set up a field at the fairgrounds and built a circle of lights that could have done daylight if we'd had the power to run them. They flew 2 small recon planes before dawn and brought them down in a hurry when the first big shape banked off Mount Jumbo and held with them for a breath like a hawk sizing a rabbit. They tried to light it with tracers, and the tracers bent when they hit the air around the body, steered off like a compass needle away from live wire. That's what a soldier told a nurse who told a neighbor who told me. And when the line is that long, you doubt it. But all I know is the same unit burned through half their flares trying to keep whatever it was off a bus of evacuees heading toward Bonner. The bus didn't make it. The road is black glass there now. I drove past, slow. Tires melted and ran like licorice. If you're still with me, this is the part where I say what you need to hear if you're new to this new world and you're still keeping notes. Lock up anything that smells like meat. Even sealed cans carry a stink when they've been warm a few days, and I have watched shapes tilt and come down toward a grocery roof on nothing more than the odor from a dumpster. Hang cloth inside your windows, not outside, and double it, leaving the outer layer loose so it moves with the draft and the inner layer tight so no light leaks. Light is a beacon now, and heat is a shout. If you cook, cook early, when the air is coldest, and do it far from where you sleep. Boil water with a lid on and let the steam make its way out through a long pipe or a crack in a basement window, not a vent straight up. Heat goes up, and things that own the up will notice. Do not run generators on roofs. That seems obvious until you have to choose between staying on the ground where you can be cornered or climbing higher where you think you can watch. Put your engine low and cover the exhaust with a box and a screen so the heat spills sideways and dies before it stands. If you have a chimney, stuff it with rock wool and run a side vent like the old wood stoves used to do. Keep a shovel by your bed, not because you're going to fight something with scales and wings with it, but because you might need to throw dirt on your own deck when a spark lands. You will hear people talk about luring them with copper or iron or some metal that sings in a special way. I don't know what's true, but I've picked up patterns. The shapes pass low where the hillside shows old scars, where slag piles sit under weeds and the ground remembers heat. They favor the spots where the air smells like old rock and the soil runs red when it rains. Maybe that's a story I made to comfort myself. Maybe it's real. What I know is they will circle cell towers, even though the towers are dead. They don't circle our dead radio tower out in East Missoula, and that tells me they aren't going for the shape of a tower. They go for the feeling of a thing that used to hum. So if you have a shed with a wall of dead electronics, move that pile somewhere you don't mind losing. If you can't move it, bury it. If I'm wrong, you've only moved junk. If I'm right, you took a blue flame off your rooftop. I have listened for official words, and I will keep doing it. Yesterday before sunrise, our emergency receiver caught a short burst on VHF that sounded like a human voice run through a grinder. The only pieces I could make were Cascade and No Air Assets, and Hold the River lines. Cascade could be the county north of us, could be the range, could be a call sign, could be someone trying to say the obvious, that anything flying out of Great Falls didn't get past the Front Range. After that, we got a clean line from a ham in Kalispell, who knows his craft better than most paid engineers. He said the shapes there take the valley like they own it at sunset and vanish toward the peaks before dawn. He said they follow the light like it's a clock. He lost me when he tried to explain the way their breath bends around water. He had equations. I only have eyes. This is not only our valley. We know because a school bus from Helena limped into town with its windows blacked out with garbage bags and tape and its paint bubbled and running. The driver was a woman named Amy. She had grease on her arms up to the elbows and the stare of someone who had already seen everything. She said the first sight there was over the sleeping giant, low enough to toss a shadow on the gulch that made the deer run in a knot for 10 minutes straight. She said the radio towers on McDonald Pass coughed smoke and died, and then came back to life at dusk, with a tone that made the birds fly wrong. Her breath caught in the middle like she was stepping between stones in a stream and hadn't found the next one yet. She said she took the bus because it was the only thing that would start when the little cars went stupid. Old diesel, mechanical pump, no chip to argue. She said she drove by feel when the glass ran, guided by the white paint on the shoulder where the road hadn't melted to black. She said a thing the size of a grain silo slid down the canyon wind slow as a falling leaf and then leaned into the bus like it was smelling it. She didn't hit the brakes. She didn't pray. She said you keep your hands on the wheel and you think about straight lines and cooling air because panic is a flare on a quiet night. I'm not talking to fill time. I'm talking to leave you with what I have before the fuel dips another notch, and I have to choose between keeping the board hot and keeping the little fridge cold enough to make one more block of water. If you're inside city limits, water still comes out of some taps because gravity still works and the tanks didn't crack. Yet. Fill everything. Use bleach if you have to. 2 drops per liter, 8 drops per gallon, quarter teaspoon for a 5-gallon bucket. Stir and let it sit 30 minutes until you can smell a low pool smell, but not a slap in the face. If you can't spare bleach, boil and let it sit covered. Do not boil under a skylight. I know that sounds stupid, but I've seen a skylight pop like candy under the breath from a pass that didn't even land. Store water low, store food lower, store hope where you can reach it in the dark. I have to say this next part, the way you'd say a thing to a friend on a porch, because every time I try to dress it in the right words, it slips away from me. I'm tired. I'm not the only one. I've been sleeping in little pieces, 15 minutes at a time like a new parent, waking to the sound of wind that might be breath and distant thunder that might be wings. I miss laying down and letting go. I miss the smell of hot pavement after summer rain, and the way our ballpark lights looked from the footbridge when a night game ran late, and the crowd sang off the key because it felt good. I am afraid in a way that doesn't come with a picture, only a pressure. But I am still here, and so are you. That counts. The second day after the first pass, I watched my neighbor, who has a bad hip and a good heart, show 3 college kids how to siphon diesel from a backhoe without getting a mouthful, and then I watched those kids push that fuel to a clinic to keep a simple oxygen machine running for a boy who needed help breathing. Nobody asked them. Nobody stood over them with a uniform. They did it because we remember how to be people. 2 days later, I saw an old woman in a blue sweater sit on a curb with 10 children and teach them how to make a solar oven from a pizza box. The sun was weak, and the cardboard sagged, and nothing got hot enough to bake anything. But the children learned that you can turn light into heat if you choose the angle and mind the edges. That is the kind of lesson we need. I've been told by a man who wore a Forest Service patch long before he wore a guard armband that the creatures aren't just fire. He said he watched one come in over a clear cut, roll its body and exhale a line of heat that never quite touched the ground. He said the heat hung there like a mirage, and the air shimmered, and a spruce tree at the fringe drank that heat, and then flared an hour later, when a breeze came through and gave the heat a ride. He used smaller words than that. He just said it lays it down and leaves it. He said if you walk through air like that, it climbs you one step at a time until you're tired and you don't know why. He said, keep a wet bandana around your neck and a hat even at night because the moon doesn't cool you like it used to. He said, sleep under dirt if you can, not under stars. There will be people who tell you to run for the passes at first light and keep going until you find a valley that doesn't echo. There will be others who say to go down, find a basement, wait it out like a winter storm. I don't know which is right for you. I know that moving in daylight is safer than moving at dusk. I know that bridges collect heat and keep it like griddles, and the steel in them seems to sing in a way that draws a pass you don't want. I know the river is both friend and trap. The mist can hide you from eyes that favor motion and shine, but the banks are wide and open, and the edges are cooked. If you must cross, do it where the water runs fast and broken, not where it spreads calm and mirrors the sky. The broken water throws off heat faster. If you have to choose between straight road and broken trail, choose broken trail because it grips your boots and eats your heat, and the things that own the sky don't love to work for what they can take easy. I've heard mutterings from people who don't like that I say the word dragon now without putting it in quotes. They say words matter, and you can make a thing real by naming it wrong. Maybe they have a point, but I'm not trying to make something real. I'm trying to keep you real. The old stories gave us more than monsters. They gave us rules. Don't stand on a ridge at dusk. Don't leave fire where you sleep. Don't walk alone when the sky is restless. Keep iron near. Keep your breath slow. Keep a prayer in your pocket, even if it's only a list of names you love. You don't have to believe in scales and hordes to know that heat eats life, and light can call the wrong eyes. This is still 104.3 FM, still low power, still rolling on a generator that drinks from a drum I drag with a dolly because the truck is empty and won't start. I'm going to stay on until the fuel dips again. Then I'll kill the transmitter for a little while to let the batteries pull a breath from what the panels caught today. You'll hear the carrier drop. Don't panic when the noise takes you. The silence will feel big, but it's just a thing you can walk across with your mind if you don't look down. I'll be back on this frequency as long as I can hold it. If you lose me and need something to hold with your ears so you don't feel alone, sweep down the dial and listen for the hams. They're out there, tapping at the edges of the dark like people lighting matches in a cave. If you hear a woman in anaconda with a voice like gravel and a laugh that sounds like a creak over stones, tell her Jessie said her antenna fix worked. If you hear a man in Hamilton who keeps giving weather from notes he made years ago, don't tell him to stop. It helps to remember what spring used to sound like. Before I throttle down, I'm going to leave names, because names are a kind of fire that doesn't draw trouble. Amy from Helena, who drove that bus with her hands steady and her jaw tight. Bill from the north side, who turned a pile of black pipe into a heat sink so his mother could sleep on a mattress and not a basement floor. Marta, the bat doctor, who said wings have fingers and then made a map from memory when the printers died. Nate from Bonner, with the freckles, who set a barrel under his eaves and taught the block how to filter roof water through sand and charcoal when the taps coughed mud. Elaine in the blue sweater. I don't know her last name. She sewed blackout curtains from thrift store sheets and then sewed the same curtains for neighbors who couldn't thread a needle with cold hands. These are the people I'm thinking of when the shape crosses the moon and my teeth hum. I will speak again soon with what little I learn between now and then. The air moves. The heat moves with it. And the things that ride the air follow the lines we make with our lives. We can bend those lines away from our doors if we stay calm and kind and smart. You don't have to be a hero. You just have to be stubborn. Drink water. Breathe slow. Keep the light low. If you must look up, do it through glass darkened twice. If you must move, move early. If you must speak, speak soft and plain, so your words don't snag on fear and tear. The world is not over. It is only different in a way that hurts. Hold on to the person you were yesterday with one hand and reach for the person you need to be tomorrow with the other. I'll be here between those two hands, saying the things I can say, turning dials, counting the seconds it takes my voice to reach the edge of town and come back to me as a thin echo. This is 104.3 FM. I'm going to reduce power now and let the batteries breathe. When you hear me again, I'll bring more from the mouths of people who are not giving up. It's after midnight now, 12:41 by the clock on the board, though the second hand has been stuttering lately, and I can't swear it hasn't lost a few minutes along the way. The temperature outside dipped to 47, and the wind has picked up, dragging grit down the street so it hisses against the glass. The generator is still holding steady, but every cough in its cycle feels like a warning, like it's reminding me that even metal has limits. I don't think I've ever noticed the smell of fuel this much in my life, but when the air is this empty of everything else, even the faintest fumes feel like perfume. I've been watching the skyline through the crack of blackout cloth I left over the west window. It's darker than usual tonight, almost bruised, like the sky has been rubbed raw. Every now and then a shadow crosses where there should be nothing, and the glass shifts in its frame as though the weight of it presses down on everything below. I have been trying to piece together where this started. People here swear they saw the first shape over the mountains, that the ridgeline rippled like heat rising and then split open to let something through. But I caught a ham signal 2 nights back, thin as smoke, out of Colorado Springs. The man on the mic, he called himself Dennis, said the Air Force had scrambled early, before the blackout, and that whatever they were chasing wasn't alone. He swore he counted 5 separate bodies moving in formation, holding tight like geese. He said the first to drop came down near Pueblo and left a crater that turned the Arkansas River into a boiling pot for a full mile. He didn't get to finish. His voice broke off mid-word, and then there was nothing but static. Here in Missoula, the silence is worse than the noise. By now, most of the houses with power still left are dark, curtains double thick and taped at the seams, but I can still smell what people cook. That's the danger. Heat and scent. I said it before, but I'll keep saying it. Cook far from where you rest. There's an old trail kitchen set up by the ranger station. Someone told me they'd been lighting fires there before dawn, letting the smoke roll down into the gully where it hugs the ground and scatters. That's smart. That's the kind of thinking we need. Keep your distance from anything that glows red for longer than it should. I watched a section of hillside keep its glow for half a day, long after the flames were gone, like the stone itself had been turned into a coal. When the wind picked up, it didn't cool. It flared again, and everything nearby went with it. I've been asking myself if this is natural. If this is just a thing the earth had waiting for us when we built too much light into the night and too many towers into the sky. Some say it's punishment. Some say it's proof the old myths were warnings, not stories. But one man I trust, a retired professor named Allen who taught physics until the university shut its doors, said something that stuck in me like a splinter. He said, whatever we're seeing, it knows the lines of our world. He said, the way they strike isn't random, that the burns on the power lines follow the exact path of the grid, like someone traced it with a torch. He thinks they're drawn to what we built, not what we are. And that chills me more than fire, because if that's true, then every scrap of wire and every running motor is a flare calling them closer. I haven't slept more than a handful of hours since this started, and I can hear it in my own voice, ragged at the edges. I'm tired, but I don't dare sleep deep. Last night I nodded off with my head on the console, and I dreamed I was standing in Caris Park with the river behind me, and a shadow stretched so far across the grass that I couldn't tell where it ended. I woke to the smell of hot dust and the faint sound of shingles dropping one by one down the street. I still don't know if that was dream or truth. Maybe both. Maybe that's what this world is now. A seam where the old stories and the new science fold over each other until they're the same thing. This is still 104.3 FM, still alive for now. If you're listening, know this. You're not alone, even if the silence around you feels bottomless. There are voices out there, and I'll keep chasing them through the static, passing them to you when I can. Hold to each other. Keep your heat low. Don't give the sky anything it doesn't already own. It's 2:07 a.m. now, and the valley feels like it's holding its breath. The wind has stopped. The grit that rattled the glass earlier has gone still, and even the stray dogs that used to bark when the shadows crossed have gone silent. The quiet feels wrong, like a warning before the first drop of rain. The thermometer hasn't moved much, still sitting in the upper 40s, but the air is different. Thick, with a kind of weight that makes you swallow harder. I keep stepping outside between breaks in the broadcast to make sure I'm not imagining it. The air smells scorched, not smoky like a wood fire, but metallic, sharp, like the snap of welding sparks. That's the smell that comes before they pass. The stones on the street hold it even after the shadow is gone. I was told today by someone from out near Clinton that the shapes don't just pass over anymore. They've started circling. He said he watched one ride the air above the Blackfoot for nearly an hour, weaving back and forth like it was tracing the curves of the river. And when it finally left, every fish along the bank was floating belly up, scales dulled to ash. He said the water steamed even where the current was strong, and when he dipped a hand in later, it burned his skin without boiling. He drove into town with his arm wrapped in wet cloth, the blisters already coming. He said the trees around the bend didn't ignite right away, but when the sun hit them later, they lit like they'd been soaked in fuel. He swore the heat lingers in the ground long after the shadow has moved on, as if the earth itself is carrying the burn like a fuse waiting for a spark. People keep asking me if there's a pattern, if there's a way to know when or where they'll strike next. All I can give you are scraps, but scraps can mean the difference between a chance and nothing. They follow the grid, where the lines still hum, even faintly. That's where they pass. Places with no wire, no signal, no hum, they're safer for now. They're drawn to movement, to light, to warmth. Anything that rises against the sky, they'll find. Someone in Lolo tried to run a generator on his roof for safety, thinking the height would hide the noise. That roof is gone now, melted. The walls sagged inward like clay. All that's left is a black mark that shines when the moon hits it. There are whispers that this isn't the first time. Old papers out of Helena mention fires in the 1800s that left burn patterns no wildfire could make. Whole hillsides reduced to glass. Livestock seared where they stood, but grass left untouched only a few feet away. They called it the Great Fire of the Sky back then, chalked it up to bad weather and superstition. But some of the descriptions, the way the air glowed red without flame, the way the stone cracked from within, they sound too familiar now. Maybe this has always been waiting in the wings, circling out of sight until the world was loud enough to draw it back down. I don't have answers, only warnings. Keep your lights covered. Keep your fires hidden. If you have to move, move early, while the air is cold and the sky is pale. Avoid ridges and bridges. They're hot spots, both for heat and for eyes in the sky. And listen to the air itself. It changes before they come. The silence thickens, the smell sharpens, and the ground seems to lean upward toward the sky. That's your cue. Don't wait for the shadow. By then, it's already too late. This is still 104.3 FM. I'm Jesse Thornton, and I'll stay with you as long as these batteries hold. If you're out there, if you can hear me, remember, stay low, stay quiet, and don't give the sky a reason to look your way. It's edging close to 3:30 in the morning now, and I can feel the weight of this night pressing harder than the others. The generator has a faint rattle in its lungs, the kind of cough that tells me the bearings are wearing down. I keep one hand on the console and the other near the kill switch, just in case the hum changes pitch and tries to burn itself out. The lights inside the booth are low, covered in rags, so most of what I see is this pale glow from the meters and the faint outline of the microphone against the dark. Outside, the street is a hollow thing. Every house I can see is blacked out, every porch empty, every car parked like abandoned bones. The silence isn't peaceful. It's the silence of a place bracing itself. An hour ago, a man from out past Bonner stumbled into town. His name's Glenn, a logger who's lived in that country his whole life. He told me something that makes my skin crawl even now. He said the shapes weren't just flying. One of them had landed. He watched from a ridge above the mill yard. Said its wings folded in slow, heavy arcs, each plate of its hide glinting faint red like coals under ash. He swore its head turned with a purpose, not aimless scanning, but deliberate, like it was listening. The ground steamed under its claws, and he said the timber piles smoldered without open fire, the kind of heat that eats from inside out. He didn't stay to see more. He ran when the air bent in his lungs, like breathing through a furnace. His hands still shake even when he tries to hold them still. I can't shake the thought of them on the ground. It's one thing to fear the sky, to keep your head low when shadows pass overhead. But if they've started to come down among us, then the lines we thought safe, basements, alleys, even our dark streets, aren't enough. Glenn said he heard a sound before it settled. Not a roar, but something low and steady. A kind of rhythm, almost like chanting. He thought it was his ears playing tricks. Maybe it was just his heartbeat pounding through smoke and fear. But the way he said it stuck with me, like the creature was carrying its own storm inside its chest. I've been replaying the last bursts I caught on the ham bands. One came from Spokane, at least I think it did, though the signal was warped. A woman's voice, steady and clipped like she'd been trained to keep panic out of her tone, said only this: "They are mapping heat. Not fire, not flame. Heat." Then she signed off. That's all, but it makes too much sense. We've seen how they circle generators, how they linger near glass towers even when the lights are dead. They're not hunting us by sight alone. They're reading the warmth of our machines, our bodies, even the ground where our feet linger too long. I've kept my own routine tighter since hearing that. When I step outside, I don't stay in one place for more than a breath. I shuffle along the wall, I crouch low, I let the cold pavement soak through my boots. It's not much, but it's better than painting a target with the warmth of my skin. If you're listening, take this to heart. Don't stand still in the open. Don't cluster together too long in one place. Move, spread out, stay cold. It's the only thing we might have left to keep from being seen. The wear is catching up with me. My voice feels ragged, my chest heavy. I don't know if it's the fumes from the generator, the air outside, or just fear pressing down on me. But I'll keep this frequency alive as long as I have fuel and power to give, because even if the sky has turned against us, even if the world feels like it's unraveling under fire and shadow, hearing another human voice still means something. It means we haven't given up yet. This is 104.3 FM. I'm Jesse Thornton. If you can hear me, hold low, hold cold, and don't let the silence trick you into thinking you're alone. It's 4:22 a.m. now, and the dark feels thicker than it did even an hour ago. Maybe it's exhaustion making it feel that way, or maybe the sky itself is pressing lower, but I swear the stars are dimmer. The blackout cloth over the windows is warm to the touch, though I haven't run heat in here for 2 nights straight. That means the air outside is carrying warmth again, the same kind of trapped heat I've learned to fear. It clings to everything it touches: brick, glass, skin. When you step into it, you know. It's like walking into the breath of something you can't see yet. I don't know how many of you are still tuning in, but I've been picking up faint scratches on the lower bands, enough to tell me the signal is still bouncing around this valley, and maybe out into the plains. Someone is out there with their own rig, probably on hand crank, tapping in bursts too faint to be words. I catch them between the static, and I hold on to them like proof that I'm not just talking to concrete and silence. Whoever you are, if you can hear me, keep tapping. Even if you don't think it's reaching, it is. Earlier, I thought I heard wings. Not the thunderous kind that make your ribs rattle, but the faint leathery drag of something gliding low, banking slow around the rooftops. I cut the lights completely and sat in the dark with my hand pressed flat against the floor. That's how you know they're close. The floor trembles before your ears do. It passed once, maybe twice, and then the air went still again. I don't think it saw me. I don't think it saw anyone. But it was hunting. I could feel it, like a weight leaning down, searching for the glow of something alive. Word came in from out near Arley before the lines went silent again. A farmer there, old man named Corwin, said his cattle were found laid out in perfect rows, not eaten, not torn apart, just cooked where they stood, their bodies stiff and black, as if some great oven door had opened on them. He swore the soil under them was cracked open in clean lines, as though heat had carved paths through the ground. He said he couldn't hear a thing while it happened. No roar, no shriek, just silence so deep he thought he'd gone deaf. Then it was over, and the smell hit him. He's still out there, guarding what's left, but he said he doesn't expect to see the sunrise more than once more. His voice was calm when he said it, like a man who has already measured the hours left in his pocket. There are whispers now, people saying maybe this isn't random, that maybe something woke them, that the quiet wasn't just chance, but a signal. I don't know what to believe, but I can tell you this. The old professor I mentioned, Alan, he swears there's a pattern to the burns. He spread maps across his kitchen table by lantern light and traced the scorch marks with his finger. He said they connect like veins running along our power lines, our highways, even our rivers. He said we built a net across this land, and something big enough to notice has landed in it. His eyes were glassy when he told me that, like he'd seen the truth and didn't want to keep carrying it. I am tired, but I can't stop. Not yet. You need to hear what I'm piecing together, and I need to know that if my voice fades, at least the words had a chance to live outside this room. If you're awake now, if you're clutching your radio with knuckles white, remember this. The silence is never just silence anymore. It is the breath they draw before they move. When it falls, when the night swallows all the little noises we still make, that's your chance to act. Hide, cover, or run. But don't wait. If you wait, you'll be nothing more than another black mark on stone. This is 104.3 FM. I'm Jesse Thornton, still breathing, still speaking, and still holding the line. If you can hear me, take the silence as a warning, not a comfort. The night is not empty. It's 5:11 a.m. now, and the horizon should be loosening into gray, but it's not. The east is still as dark as the west, and the ridgeline looks sharper, like someone cut it out of black paper. The air in here is stale from the cloth over the windows, and every breath tastes like dust and fuel. I'm running low power, but the gauges still twitch each time the generator hiccups. I keep one ear on the console and the other tuned to the silence outside, waiting for some shift, some signal that morning is still real. I want to tell you about the streets. I walked them just before I came back on air, just to remind myself this isn't a dream built on static. Higgins Avenue, once full of late bars and flickering neon, is hollow. Every window is blackened, most with soot from fires that burned and went out on their own. The asphalt has a shine, not from rain, but from heat. Patches where it melted into waves that hardened again. I kicked a rock, and it skipped once, then sank into a soft patch like tar. Even the crosswalk paint has bubbled, blistered white instead of yellow. The air carries a sweetness under the sharpness, like meat gone bad, but hidden under a layer of burnt sugar. It clings to your clothes. Out by the bridge, the guardrails are bent, not from cars, but from something heavier pressing against them from above. The steel has curled like ribbon, edges feathered thin. You can run your finger along it and cut yourself without knowing, and on the water below, I saw ripples even though the wind was dead. Not fish, not current, just slow, wide circles spreading from nowhere, as though something unseen had dipped a claw and moved on. I didn't stay to see more. I caught another broken voice on the ham band, maybe half an hour ago. A man this time, coughing through static, said he was calling from Deer Lodge. His words came in bursts, but what I heard chilled me. They nest. The fire stays alive in the stone. Not safe underground. That's all. Then silence. If what he says is true, then the places we thought were safe, basements, bunkers, cellars, they might be traps. Heat in stone doesn't fade like it does in wood. It stays. It waits. And if they've started nesting, then this isn't just passes in the night. This is settlement. I can feel the strain in my own chest, the kind that isn't just tired lungs. It's the fear pressing, the kind you can't push back with reason. My hands are shaking when I hold this mic, not from cold, but from knowing the world outside is no longer ours in the way it once was. But I'll keep talking, because silence is worse. If you're listening, you need to know you're not alone in this. You need to know there are still voices carrying through the dark. Stay low, stay cold. Don't linger near stone that glows or ground that shimmers. If you hear silence thicker than it should be, move before the air changes. This is 104.3 FM. My name is Jesse Thornton, and though the night feels endless, I'll keep speaking until I can't. It's 6:02 a.m. now, though if I didn't have the old wind-up clock on the shelf, I wouldn't believe it. The sky hasn't given back a single ounce of light. Normally by now, the edge of the mountains starts to gray, the black starts to peel off the pines, but it's the same as it was at 2, at 3, at 4. Black that doesn't give anything back. I keep thinking maybe the sun rose and didn't make it through. Maybe something above us is holding it down. I press my face close to the edge of the curtain just to see if there's any break, but all I see is stillness, thicker than night, as if the world is caught under a lid. The generator is running ragged, shaking the floorboards, coughing on each cycle. I've been rationing its life, shutting it down between breaks. But diesel only lasts so long, and the drum is down to a slosh at the bottom. I don't know how many more hours I can keep this frequency alive. Every second I sit here, I weigh power for words against power for water. My fridge has one last block of ice, half melted. When it's gone, I'll have nothing left to keep what little food I've got safe. That's the kind of math we're all doing now. How much voice is worth compared to how much hunger? I keep hearing faint wings, not the deep roars, not the body-shaking passes, but the quiet glides, the kind that make you doubt yourself until you feel the floorboards flex, just enough to know the weight above is real. Once tonight I heard tiles sliding down a roof 2 streets over, each one slapping pavement with a crack, and then silence so deep my ears rang. I sat frozen, afraid to breathe, waiting for that smell of scorched metal to roll in. It never did. But the silence after was worse than any fire. More scraps of reports keep trickling through the static. Someone out past Sealy Lake said they watched a ridge burn without flame. The trees glowed red from inside out, like lanterns made of bark. Then the glow died all at once, leaving nothing but black husks that stood like statues. No smoke, no sparks, just a graveyard of wood. Another voice, faint and broken, said, "Butte is gone. Not burned to the ground in the way we used to mean it, but hollowed out, stone cracked open like pottery left too long in a kiln." If that's true, then the fire doesn't just eat life. It eats the bones of the earth too. I've been running my hands over the maps Alan left, tracing the lines of scorch across county and state. He was right. The marks link up like veins, following everything we built. Power grids, pipelines, highways. They aren't just hunting by chance. They're mapping us, using what we've laid across the land like a net. Every time we run a wire or light a lamp, we're tying another knot in the snare that holds us. The thought makes me sick. It makes me wonder if survival isn't about hiding anymore, but about cutting ourselves out of the web we built. I'm tired. More tired than I thought a person could be and still sit upright. But I'll keep the mic hot until the fuel is gone. If you're listening now, if you're clutching a radio in a basement or on a porch with your breath shallow and your heart in your throat, remember this: you are not the last. I can hear the static carrying other voices in the gaps, too faint to pull into words, but real all the same. We are still here, scattered, whispering into the dark. Hold to that. Don't let the black trick you into believing it has already won. This is 104.3 FM. My name is Jesse Thornton, and I'll stay on the line until the line itself burns out. It's 7:15 a.m. now, though you wouldn't know it by looking outside. The horizon is still sealed in black, no hint of gray, no thin line of morning trying to break through. The only way I know the hour is because the clock on the wall ticks steady, and I keep winding it like a prayer. My chest feels heavy from breathing the same air over and over in this room, air that tastes of oil and rags and the faint iron scent that drifts in each time I open the door to check the fuel. The generator coughed hard about 20 minutes ago and made me think it was finished, but it caught again, rattling and shaking like it's as stubborn as I am. I stepped outside for a moment before the last hour, careful, crouched low, moving quick from wall to wall. The street looked dead but not safe. Nothing moves, but you can feel the weight of the sky pressing down, like something perched above is leaning to listen. The asphalt is cooling wrong. The tar has a shine, as though it's still soft underneath, and every step leaves just the faintest print. Even with boots on, you can feel the warmth rising through the soles. That's the danger now. The heat doesn't vanish when they pass. It waits, tucked into the ground, ready to bleed back up the moment the air stirs. I saw marks on the walls of the old post office, lines, curved and blackened, cut into the brick in perfect arcs. Not random fire, not vandalism. Arcs, like something massive dragged claws or fire across the face of it and left the shape of wings there. The edges were glassy, fused, sharp enough to split skin if you touched them. I didn't linger. The smell was strong enough to sting the back of my throat. I caught another broken message on the bands, a voice out of Helena, strained and half swallowed by static, said only this: "Stay off the ridges." They roost there now. That was all. But it makes sense. If the sky is theirs, then the high places are theirs too. Don't climb. Don't think height is safety. Every instinct in us says to get above danger, but above is where they live. Stay low, stay hidden, keep walls over your head even if they're crumbling. I don't know if anyone out there is still counting days, but I think this makes the 15th sunrise that never came, at least not here. 15 days of waiting for a light that doesn't break. My hands are raw from hauling fuel and water, my eyes burn from lack of sleep, and I feel the weight of silence every time I stop talking. But I'll keep this frequency alive as long as I can, because even if the world is tearing itself apart, a human voice in the dark is proof we're still here. This is 104.3 FM. I'm Jesse Thornton. If you hear me, remember this. Don't climb. Don't chase the ridges. Don't stand where the sky can see you. Stay low. Stay cold. Stay alive. It's 8:09 a.m. now, though if the clock wasn't ticking beside me, I'd swear the night had never ended. The air in here feels heavy, like the walls are sweating, and the blackout cloth over the windows is warm to the touch, even though the sun hasn't broken through. The generator is sputtering more often, each cough like a warning that I might have to choose soon between silence and water. My throat is dry, my voice rougher than it should be at this hour, but I'll keep talking until the fuel gives out, because if my words are reaching even one set of ears, then that's reason enough to burn the last of it. I walked the alley behind the station just before coming back on air. The ground there is cracked in a new way. Not from weight, not from frost, but from heat. Long black fissures running through the pavement, still warm enough that steam curls out when the morning air touches them. The trash bins along the wall have sagged like candles left in the sun, lids half melted, metal buckled in on itself. A bird lay there too, small and stiff, feathers singed down to the quills. I don't think it burned in fire. It looked more like it had been cooked from the inside. That's the part that turned my stomach. I picked up another thin voice on the band around 7:40, a woman from Kalispell. Her words cut in and out, but what I caught was enough. They don't just fly. They listen. The ground carries us to them. I don't know what she meant, but maybe she's right. Maybe every vibration, every footstep, every clatter through stone and soil, it's all a drumbeat they can follow. That would explain why they circle empty buildings, why they pass over hollow ground again and again. The earth itself betrays us now. Alan's maps are still spread out on the counter beside me. I keep tracing the marks he made, lines of scorch and silence that connect towns and roads like veins in a body. Last night, I thought I saw something new in them. The way the Burns branch, always out, always splitting. They look less like accidents and more like growth, like roots spreading. It made me sick to think about. Maybe we aren't just being hunted. Maybe we're being overgrown. I can feel the fatigue in my bones, the kind of weight that makes your thoughts blur at the edges. But I can't let it win. Not yet. Not while the mic is still alive and the transmitter still carries. If you're hearing this, if you're clutching your radio in a dark room or crouched in a cellar, remember, stillness is your friend. Don't stamp your feet. Don't drop things. Don't let the ground speak louder than you. Cover your floors. Move like you're walking on glass. And if you must sleep, do it with your weight spread flat so the earth doesn't know where you are. This is 104.3 FM. I'm Jesse Thornton. The sky is still black, the air is still wrong, and the ground itself may be turning against us. But we're not finished. If you're alive to hear this, then we're still here, and that's enough to keep speaking. It's 9:03 a.m. now, though you'd never know it. The black outside hasn't softened, not even into gray, and the ridge lines are still razor sharp against a sky that refuses to move. The cloth over the window is damp with condensation, which makes no sense in this cold. It smells like metal when I press my nose close, like the air itself is bleeding rust. The generator is running on fumes. Each shake of its frame sounds like a cough from a dying man, and I know I'll have to shut it down soon to stretch what's left. But I'll hold the frequency as long as I can, because silence is worse than hunger, worse than thirst. When I stepped outside to check the fuel, I heard something new. Not wings, not the roar, not the low hum that rattles your bones. It was more like a groan, deep and slow, the sound of stone shifting under pressure. It came from the hills, rolled across the valley, and settled in my chest. A sound that didn't belong to sky or fire, but to the ground itself. I walked a few steps out into the street, just far enough to feel it through my boots, and the pavement trembled. Not like an earthquake. Short, sharp, and done, but steady, pulsing, like the earth itself had a heartbeat. A voice out of Billings cracked through the static just before 8. A man said the mines there have started glowing. He swore he saw red light seeping out of old shafts that hadn't been touched in decades, the stone around the entrances hot enough to blister skin. He said something bigger than wings moved down there, crawling through the tunnels, dragging fire with it. He cut off quick, like someone pulled the plug, and I haven't heard him since. If that's true, if they're not just above us but under us too, then no cellar, no bunker, no basement is safe. We used to think the ground was refuge. Now it may be just another mouth for them to crawl through. Alan's words echo in me. He said the scorch marks look like veins, like something alive spreading through our grid. If the burns connect, if the heat is moving under the surface as much as over it, then maybe this isn't hunting anymore. Maybe it's claiming, like roots, like infection, like we're already inside its body, and we don't know it yet. I'm bone tired, my throat raw, but I'll keep speaking while I can. Because if you're listening, if you're clutching a battered radio in a basement, or standing in a doorway with your heart hammering, then you need to know this. Stillness isn't always safety anymore. If the ground itself is carrying their fire, then we need to move like ghosts, lighter than air, careful with every step. Spread your weight, pad your floors, keep your feet soft on the earth. Don't give the ground a chance to carry you up to them. This is 104.3 FM. I'm Jesse Thornton. The sun is late. The earth is burning from within, and the sky is still watching. But as long as my voice carries, so do we.